ownership of churches should be banned throughout the country. Is that freedom? So I think we need to really see how best we can handle this thing, because when we talk of freedom, freedom with no limit, it can cause damage to the country, and it has done already. So, I really thank you so much. But,
food and housing is a problem. I'd like to know how is funding taking place in these categories of teams supporting in this operation in Shakahola. Number two is with the aspect that you've just talked about. We interacted with Muslims, the Hindus, and there is a notion that there has been a skewed approach in dealing with this radicalization matter. There is a belief that we are soft on this Christian approach, unlike the high-handedness, stiff-neckedness that the other Muslim community has gone through in your pursuit to ensure that there is peace, tranquility, and level playing ground. And finally, to pick up from what my good sister said, prior media reports that some people had on their skulls or bodies, there are blunt objects that could have been used. So does it assure or justify that Mackenzie had a militia that he used to, protect his operation, conceal the evidence, and therefore, as he speaks or he operates today, he is innocent until proven guilty? Thank you.
Senator Amida.
Thank you, Chair. I hope CS can take one more. It really seems that Pastor Mackenzie had 9 lives, or he still has 9 lives. I mean, according to what you have narrated, all this time, he has escaped the jail. So he's been surviving for quite some time. What I'm getting is I feel so relieved that I'm getting the assurance from you, CS, that this matter will come, actually justice shall prevail, and will hold you responsible for that. Seriously, you can imagine the pain of all the families that are going through now, exhuming the bodies of their loved ones. It's really, really painful, and I'm just wondering what kind of pain is Pastor Mackenzie going to feel. CS, yesterday we had the PS for land, and of course in our files it showed that the land was actually leased for about 45 years, since 1984, and ending 2029. That's 6 years to go. The land was leased for IDPs, and now, like I said, I wanted you to narrate, to tell us about the land, because now I was trying to get the connections. But then when we asked for any evidence of the IDPs that were settled, none. There's no evidence of any IDPs. So the land was idle, actually. And for me, looking at it yesterday, it was more or less the conveyor belt of all evil. Because the government wasn't there, the security didn't have, no intelligence for the Shakahola Chakama ranch. And that ranch was actually, it was a ranch. And the government paid 100 million for the land actually, to be leased for the IDPs, and nothing was done. So just wondering, what is the taxpayer? Why would even the government, do such a thing? But then there was no accountability for that land. When you go to Shakahola, Shakamara, on a CS, and there was no kind of, real settlement, for Kenyans, nothing, zero. So this, apart from Mackenzie, I'm still wondering also, were there other people who did the same? Are these bodies being exhumed? Are they just for Mackenzie or other, other evil? So anybody would have played, it was a field. You have your own, issues, memalizana na mtu, maybe that was the place. So for actually Mackenzie to have settled at that place and comfortably doing what he could do for years, I mean, it seems like, and imagine 45 years, the ranch is open. Any kind of evil would have taken place. So as much as, yes, Mackenzie has issues, what about the other people? And of course we blame the government for this. What other evils did, went on in Chakama Ranch? I'm also hoping that the mental health for police officers, actually we passed a motion, that was my motion for mental health, will also prevail. I'm imagining all these people handling the dead bodies and exhuming and doing what? We need to have a wing, at least special wing, as much as, it may be, but then this is a very serious issue that the mental health, and I would really want to get involved since I have a motion on mental health for police officers. At least that should take place. Just one more, when I see is that at what point does the security agency get concerned about the activities of a certain church or religious outfit? For example, we went to Kisumu and we actually forced ourselves to Father John Pessers. And I remember we had the vice chair, and she was actually quite aggressive on it. And we found about 7 cases of people who have been locked in with chains, and lock and chain, you can imagine. So all these things are still going on, and we were still, unfortunately we didn't have time. We were actually told that there were graves inside, and he actually agreed that there were graves, and he said, oh, they were for relatives or whoever. But then there were many other things. Unfortunately, we didn't have time that day and Father Pesa, he pretended to be quite innocent. But then the next day, on interviews, he was quite harsh on us. But then we found we actually released about 7 to 9 people who are locked in and who are, insane. So I'm just wondering at what time, the Nigerians, yesterday we had, I think, civil society coming with their human rights, young people saying they are Nigerian, yes, who are holding, the same kind of cult. And it's going on in Kenya, but even them, they are scared because of the spiritual something. So the human rights, imagine that. So I'm just wondering, where are we heading, and at what point is the security coming in? Bwana CS, but at least we are getting that assurance from you, and I still commend you, Bwana CS. What you've been doing, actually, you've been there throughout, with the Chakama, and as much as we may not be there, and we keep on saying at least Bwana CS is actually there, and getting new graves. You can imagine digging in new graves over and over again, as you're telling us you're going to a new site. It's true. 1 or 2 people is a handful dead bodies. We are going to 350 Bwana CS. And imagine Kenyans are taking it as per no, it's normal. Oh, leo wametoa 300. Oh, leo wametoa 20. We have a 30. Okay. And life goes on. Surely it's you can imagine, it's so painful. It's so hurting. You can't believe, Kenyans, us as Kenyans, something can go on like this in Kenya, and you can imagine the families that, are left behind. But we are 350. Hell knows we could be at 600. What is the government going to do about it? And are we still blaming just one person? I like the idea that all those people who are involved, the police officers, whoever the judiciary, seriously, they must answer to this. This is painful to Kenyans. This is, it is a grave matter. It is indeed a grave matter. What are you a grave matter? This one, it is indeed a grave matter. So, Bwana CS, tusaidie Bwana. Then we have this nyumba kumi kumi. Did we have any kind of nyumba kumi kumi around that area so that at least guys, would have identified? But then Chakama Ranch, and if we have any other ranches, Bwana CS, going through the same kind of evils, this must stop.
Senator Faki, online, I'm told you want to...
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Bwana CS, for the presentation. My concern is that Mackenzie went under the radar after selling the church and the radio station, and he became a private citizen. Now, are we dealing with an ordinary criminal who had called people, and then because of the conmanship, he proceeded to murder them when they were asking questions on where the land they are suing him or where was, and things like that. I have a feeling that this may not be a cult murder. This may not be cult murder, but this straightforward murder cases where somebody called innocent people, and when they started asking questions, he started killing them, and that's where you find those mass graves. Number two is the capacity of the police who are in the outer stations. In your presentation, you said that several cases had collapsed before the magistrate's court at Malindi. But if there were proper investigators of those cases, I don't think those cases would have collapsed at that particular time. We may blame the courts, but the courts are independent arbiters. They are there to decide on the evidence that you present. If you don't have evidence, whatever you do, even if you proceed to appeal, the appeal will be able to vindicate the accused person. And you see how our courts now are becoming more and more liberal. The other day, the Court of Appeal abolished the life sentences. Now we don't have capital offenses. Even if you're charged with a capital offense, you cannot be sentenced to hang. Even the life imprisonment is also going to be abolished because the court has also said so. So we are delving into the realm of the unknown. And I think we need a whole conversation on the justice system, because the way the courts are going, we may not be able to have any prisoner in jail in the next 20 or so years. Thank you, Bwana CS and the chairman.
Thank you. Any other senator, because we're going to wind up after the CS speaks. Okay, so CS, maybe you, as you speak on these other issues, you may want to tell us what your take is. The human rights organization made a very strong case that the 95 adherents or followers of Paul Mackenzie who are charged with attempted suicide ought not to be treated as suspects in court. They ought not to have been charged. They ought to be treated as victims, and therefore should be released. In fact, very strong recommendation about repealing section 226 of the Penal Code on suicide altogether, because these are mental health issues and should be supported, other than taking them within the realm of criminal law. Maybe as you make your statements about all the questions, you may want to tell us something on that. And I see Senator Wakoli forgot one more thing. You finished that.
Yeah, thank you. This is an answer to Waziri. You've elaborated the efforts by government to put behind bars Shukiwa Mackenzie. I see he was released on cash bail or bond and sureties of million plus. I want to know if government has made any effort to know the source of these funds, who was with him and where the funds came from, because this one can equally give us insight on his operations and allies. Thank you.
Why is Mackenzie sleeping on a mattress and other suspects on the floor? We were given that information by NGO.
Okay,
CS, you can just tackle all those and then give your closing remarks, because after you finish, we are done.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for all the members. When the children were reported to have been starved to death and buried in Shakahola, that was on 20th of March. The arrest took place 2 days later. There could have been earlier reports to the police which were not acted on. And that is part of the accountability mechanisms. That will be part of the solution to the resolution of this matter. But immediate, and at that point, Chair, I thank the NGOs, civil society have done a good job, especially those who blew this thing and made it, a major issue initially, and even after that. I just want to commend them. They did a great and patriotic work. Because it's one thing to sit here and blame judiciary, blame police, you blame everybody except yourself. So there are many institutions and Kenyans who are not necessarily governments who have done a good job, and I single out the civil society, Aki Africa, Muhuri, and the others. They've done a good job. And even after that, they have remained active. They are partners with us in the accountability journey and the journey for justice. And they would have easily said, it's not our work, we are not law enforcement officers. Why is this person coming to report? I don't want to get involved. And they go with other activities, so we must thank them. Same with our media. I think the media has done a brilliant, brilliant work. A matter as complex as this one would have been treated differently were it not for the responsibility of our journalists. Both Kenyan journalists and international journalists who have been covering that massacre in Shakahola. Again, I'm grateful to these non-governmental actors. I'm also grateful to the Red Cross and the other humanitarian organizations and private citizens. There are people who have given their money daily, even to feed some of the officers in the operation. And I know a question was asked about funding. I will respond to that. Private citizens, we honor them, and we'll find a way of recognizing them as part of closure. Quietly, without making a fuss about it. Their job is to make sure there's water for the search and rescue teams, for all the teams there, the pathologists, providing them with soap, pocket money, supporting them with food where their budgets are restrained. So there are many heroes of this process. And also thank you, senators, because you also took your time to visit there and see for yourself the situation there. It took about a month for us to start the operation, because when the first crime was exposed, Again, because of the lapses which I have said had occurred on our parts. Yeah. We didn't know that what the situation is now is what it is that time. Until, then another exposure, mainly by NGOs, journalists, another exposure. Then we realized, come on, this is much more serious. And that's when we say this is large-scale organized crime. And that took a bit of time for us to appreciate that we have just, through the support of the media and the journalists, that we've just stumbled on a monumental tragedy we didn't expect because of the lapses which I have said before. And for the second time, if not the third, on behalf of the previous administration, where all these things began, by virtue of what I have already stated here, and the current administration, I apologize to the people of Kenya that this should not have happened. This is the worst security breach that our country has ever experienced. With regard to the ownership business, it's not even from a criminal justice perspective, we are not bothered with that discussion. That's a different discussion of who owns the land. And I don't want to preempt the prosecution case, but that should be the least of our worries. All we need to show is the suspect was in control of that space. That's all. Whether he had stolen it, whether he had entered into an agreement with fraudsters, it doesn't matter, but we must demonstrate that he's the one who was calling the shots. And the people there, he's the one who was preaching to them. If we have the evidence to show he's the one who was preaching to people there, indoctrinating them there, supervising the killers, that is enough. It doesn't matter whether he owned the land through a lease, which is a legitimate lease or not, that is a different question altogether. Then, thirdly, the issue of mental health. All those like me who have been in that space for a long time, 3 months now, almost every week. Actually, I'm returning there. And even much more, the officers who are there daily, they report there every day. At least me, I go once a week. I've been there 8 times. Require support. And Chair, I want to say this. I am very proud of our officers, both from government and non-governmental agencies, who are undertaking that work in Shakahola. They have surpassed our expectations. The focus, the patriotism is in another level. The empathy with the kind of work they are doing, they have taken it upon themselves. But this is the most important assignment they are doing for this country. Some under very difficult circumstances. You can imagine people reporting to gravesites and mortuaries every day for 3 months. Exhumed every day, children, women, old people, men. So we have a plan. We have a plan. There is an ongoing psychosocial support system. But even the group that will require strong de-socialization are the grave diggers. The boys, the young men who are doing this work. Again, they have done a good job, a great job. But that trauma, if it's not managed, can even be a future of security problem. Because every day they wake up to dig graves. So you don't know when that work ends, what else do you do? So we have a plan. We have an exit strategy, which I don't want to preempt. But we'll honor those young men and we'll give them a transition into something else and absorb some of them into some of our systems, and make sure that we don't withdraw them from that activity and release them back to society in their state. So we have a psychosocial support system for everybody. All of us who have been there will tell you it's not an easy thing. Some of the bodies are badly damaged, and so forth and so on. Let me give this assurance here. Let not the country worry about whether the officers, the public officers who caused or contributed in any way to this tragedy will be held into account. Let there be no worry, because they will. But we are limited in terms of how fast we can act. One, we are limited by the law. We are limited by our own constitution on the presumption of innocence. Number two, we are limited by our own constitution, Article 47, on fair administrative action. You don't wake up and just interdict and whatever. Otherwise they'll go to court, and you know our courts now have achieved another level of freedom. They can do anything. And I'm not commenting on anything that is live. But yes, that is our law, that is our country, that is our judiciary. So we have to be careful. But take it from me, every officer of whatever agency who has a role in this through action or inaction, conduct or misconduct, will be brought to justice without exception. And we are not going to look for junior people to hold accountable. We will hold everyone accountable, whether they will be serving in office at that time or they will have left office. That is how we view this accountability journey. Then there was the issue of this freedom. How far, when we say how far should it go? It should go as far as the law is not broken, as far as the right of other people are not affected. That is our Bill of Rights. These freedoms are not limitless. In fact, your freedom to punch in the air ends where my nose starts. Your freedom to punch in the air aimlessly ends where my nose starts. That is the fundamental underlying philosophy of human rights. And this country, we have somehow cultured ourselves erroneously that freedoms are limitless. And we have, in the process, generated three forms of extremism. One, religious extremism. And you touch anything religion, and everybody says, no, this is freedom of worship. No, freedom of worship? Does it include the freedom to kill and torture? No. Then you have cultural extremism. Some people hiding around culture to violate rights of other people, like those who are mutilating our girls and cutting their body parts. And they say, oh, it's our culture. That's all. And they expose them to grave health hazards for life. Then the third and final category is political extremism. Yes. Oh, we have political rights, we have democracy, we can do what we want, we have a freedom to assemble and demonstrate. It's true. Yeah, but don't just go to a meeting and do your meeting and talk. And if you are in government, promote the policies of government in your meeting. If you're in the opposition, promote the opposition policies in the meeting. When the meeting is over, go home. Simple. The fact that you have a right to present a petition doesn't mean you have a right to ask 50,000 people to storm a street or a town or, just close a road and people cannot travel. And this is, which constitution is that? These are the ingredients that erode our constitutional order. That's how you destroy a country. Slowly. Oh, I'm a preacher of the gospel, don't touch me. You're killing people. I'm a politician, I have a freedom to do whatever I want, let people demonstrate. And as early as 6 a.m., before even the meeting is called, people are looting other people's shops, criminals who are taking advantage of your meeting. And so, that's where we are. Our challenge is to strike a balance between the need to respect all the freedoms that our country, through the Constitution, has offered, but also respect the limitations that ensure public order, public safety, public morality. And that's where we are coming from. So all extremists of all types will be treated the same way because what they are causing is the same thing. Mr. Mackenzie has, through his activities, killed the hundreds. Other extremists are causing deaths of maybe a lesser number, but they are still deaths of the people of Kenya. It must stop. And I mean it, Mr. Chair, it must stop. Then there was the question of the experience you had in Kisumu. There are so many, I have reports, very many reports, because the question was from Senator Amida was, at what point should security agencies get involved? It's a bit difficult. Let me tell you why, Chair. Because I've taken time to reflect on some of these matters. I'm not just speaking out of the blues. I've taken a lot of time. You know, public officials, including judges, members of parliament, and security officers, are also human beings. And they also worship. Some of them are members of some of the organizations that we think are criminal organizations. So that answers some of the questions you have. It's a much bigger problem than we are thinking. And the reverence we have given this space is so high, you know, when you're already a security officer, a minister like myself, a senator like yourself, you're already a member of this organization that is perpetuating this. Tell me how easy it will be to be able to rely on you to address this issue. Let me give this assurance also. All criminals who are hiding in religion, in culture, in politics, we will stop them before they hurt us more. And we have no apologies to make to anybody. We'll stop them. Including members of the judiciary. Because they are also human beings. So any person involved in crime, it doesn't matter. Because your independence, the space we have given you is not to commit crime. We'll come for you. The source of funds, we have made a lot of progress in that area. Allow me not to say much more than that, but we've made a lot of progress, and I thank the Senator for raising that issue. It's an important element of successful prosecution and the realization of justice. Did he have a militia? Yes. all the evidence is pointing to the existence of a militia whose work was to supervise death, make sure that those who change their minds are forced to continue with that process till the end. With tremendous respect, my distinguished professional senior Senator Faki, the Senator of Mombasa, is wrong to say that he has this hypothesis that this is a conman who had stolen people's property. And when he asked questions, he wanted to get rid of them. No. This is a criminal who, in collaboration with his supporters, and those who assisted him commit this offense, deliberately sat down and designed a well-planned program to kill the people of Kenya using force and dangerous doctrine. Period. If it was the economic issues, he would have dealt with the people buying land, and mainly it is men who buy land. Then when they disagree, he would kill the man. But to seduce a whole family to go and stay with him for months and kill the entire family. If it was a land transaction, he would have dealt with people who are speculation for land, and then it ends there. But what we are having there is a complete elimination of his followers. As a religious group, members of GNI were targeted for complete elimination in the entire setup, the entire family. So I disagree. However, notwithstanding that, we are not ruling out any possibility. Even that aspect, we have not ruled out that there could be land and economic issues involved in our investigation, because it will be foolhardy to do so. With regard to the chairman's proposal, the chairman of this committee, on what the civil society has recommended, I don't want to venture there because of the controversies around suicide. And I have my personal views, but I don't think it's necessary at this stage to share them. But it's a very controversial matter. It's not as easy as the civil society organizations want us to believe. Because within the human rights jurisprudence, what we have in human rights jurisprudence under international law and our constitution is the protection of the right to life. And in fact, it is that protection of the right to life that has led to the abolition of death penalty in Kenya and in other jurisdictions. That because of the sanctity, that the death penalty is an affront on the right to life. Because you're killing someone for whatever reason. They say it's an affront of the right to life. So the right to life, God gives life, takes life. That is some of the jurisprudence that has been obtaining. But I know in some countries, and this is now what I'm seeing creeping into our Kenyan jurisdiction, is the jurisprudence of the right to die, which has been there in European countries and other Western countries for the last 20 years. And the argument is, Chair, that as a human being, because a human being enjoys that fundamental and existential freedom, and I have the right to live, I also have the right to die. So if I want to take my life, why should government be bothered to force me to live? That is the philosophy that has led to some countries, like the Netherlands, just as a way of example, to have laws on euthanasia, for example, or mercy killing, what is known as mercy killing, where somebody can be killed on medical grounds. And in between that human rights jurisprudence and philosophy, there is religious issues there. So I don't want to venture there. I'll get lost. I will get lost, so that whether or not a person has both the right to live and the right to die, I am not sure. But as to the right to life, that one I am sure, because it is universal, that it is one of the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual. Very quickly, the funding. It is true, some of the teams we have supporting this operation are underfunded, but the problem is with the parents, because this is multi-agency. So you have the police part, which is an interior function. You have the pathologist, which is a Ministry of Health function. The government chemist is interior. You have others like children welfare, which is, I think, social services. So it depends now on the parent ministry. For us in interior, we are making sure that all our teams there are funded. We have had to ask our county officers to reallocate funds, because this is a national emergency, and the quest for justice is extremely important for it to succeed. And we are there to support the teams every day. So the discrepancies are caused by the fact that it's beyond the Ministry of Interior, and some of those agencies fall under other ministries. The allegation that the government could be skewed, or the country could be skewed in favor of the Christian faith, the expense of the Muslim faith, is not true. When whatever measures were done, when we had a real problem with some criminals hiding in madrasas and mosques, propagating dangerous doctrine and encouraging terror, we were very vicious, and we succeeded. Because the problem, the threat there then was being posed from that section of faith. Today, this threat has come from the Christian faith. So, that's why I've repeated many times, this deliberate chair, that ruthlessness that we applied that time to deal with our Muslim brothers that time, we will use it on our Christian brothers and sisters the same. So that also we tackle elements within Christianity who are causing the same harm as our brothers in the Muslim faith that time. And I agree, we should also look also at other faiths and also persons of neutral faith. I think that is it. The militia, I think I've answered. Or have I left anything else? I think I've answered everything. There was one question about the capacity of the police. I think there is no particular institution here which is to blame. I believe there are many things that the police should have done differently. There are many things that the NIS should have done differently. There are many things that the ODPP should have done differently, and there are many things that the judiciary should have done differently. So I think, for me, that is the summary of everything. And we are guilty as government, and the society is also guilty. Because if our brothers and sisters, the clergy, do not, or rather are truthful among themselves, they will tell us they have not helped us to weed out bad people in the elements. Instead, they are applying a tactic which was applied somewhere in one of the scriptures, which I don't want to quote, where somebody was asked, "Where is your brother?" And he answered, "I am not, it's not my business." That approach, it's not my business, you know, because I've heard our religious people talk, and I have a lot of respect for religious leaders. Myself, I'm a son of a clergy. So I mean business when I say this. I grew up as a child of a clergyman. You cannot tell us that it is the responsibility of government to expose the bad people. It's not our business. And with the other side of the mouth, you say, we don't want to be regulated, we want self-regulation. What are you telling us? You can't have both. Self-regulation means you must go out of our way to tell us, you should be the one calling government, come, come, there is a bad fellow there. Come, this fellow there is ruining us. But you want to tell us, it's not my business. It's for security agencies to find out who is hurting people. At the same time, when we say, can we strengthen the systems to make sure that you are accountable, you say, no, 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 we regulate ourselves. Food for thought. And I have a lot of respect for the bishops and the archbishops and the apostles and the pastors, and I go to church every day, and I mean business. But these are the hard questions, and we will not spare anybody. We will not spare anybody. The God whom they preach, whom they are telling us has allowed them to do things without questions, is the same God we are serving in our law enforcement work to make sure society is protected from criminals. We will not spare anybody. Chair, I want to thank you for your time, your patience, and I remain at the disposal of this committee, even in writing. If you want anything written, we'll prepare it. My closing remark is just a request that we do not bungle. We do not allow the prosecution to have an excuse why this case failed, because it must never fail. I'm a Kenyan, I know how we blame each other. When the time comes, God forbid, if the matter fails, we'll start saying, you know, some of the evidence, I don't know, went this way. We as government has nothing to hide. We as government will not person. If anybody ought to have done something, they didn't do it, we'll expose them, we will disown them, we'll make them accountable, including myself as the Minister for Kenya Security. Thank you and God bless you.
Just before you leave, there's an issue of connecting the families. And the Vice Chair wanted you to say something, and then we close.
We have so far united 20 from those that we had arrested, because there are two things. There's the release of the remains of our people to their loved ones, which is a longer process because of the DNA profiling process and matching. That one is to take a bit of time, and there's very little we can do. But the teams there are working very hard. The government's pathologist, Dr. Johansen Odwar, the government chemist, all the teams there are doing a good job, and the homicide director. These are true heroes. I do not Chair, just that, by the way, how come when our institutions are called to action, sometimes they perform so well. It just means even in the preventive side, if these institutions had applied themselves with patriotism, perhaps these things should not have happened. What we have done there is such a huge matter. Even internationally, people are wondering, how Kenya, without the support of foreigners, is running a methodical processing of a scene of atrocities of international criminal standards using experts, their own experts. So we will delay that process because of the science involved. But there's also the reunification of the victims of Mr. Mackenzie's evil doctrine with their families. Around 20 have been united. We may release some of them, but we must first stabilize them through the psychosocial process that I talked about. If you release them back in that nature, you can even lose them. As you're aware, even some whom we had arrested, they were still refusing to eat. Yeah, so again, we have to handle them medically and make sure they can go back home. We have no intention of holding people's relatives for no reason. Then there is also some of them who have given us very good evidence, but their state of mind is improving. And every time we interview them, they are even clearer in their minds, and they are very hostile to what happened to them. So we will hold them for a while before we release them, to stabilize them, to give us information, and we will not punish. We will not punish them. Some of the things are secondary. If somebody was rescued, we put it this way, without preempting the decision of the public prosecutions, because I have no power to do so. My personal views. If somebody was arrested because he was a victim of this crook, and they have abandoned, or rather they have stopped processing the suicide mission. They have stopped the journey to suicide. They are giving police useful information. What else? The most important thing will be to help them stabilize medically and return them home, if you ask me. So, as we'll be releasing people to their families in the soonest time possible. We will not punish innocent people, and we will not criminalize victims of a crime, because you could see from about a third, 35 to 40%, were forced to die by being struck with blunt objects, meaning they had changed their mind. So even with the group of the people we have arrested, they were forced to stay there, and many of them, I don't think many of them will be charged. So thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you very much, Cabinet Secretary. We are grateful for all the insights you've given us. This committee continues to receive reports, and in case there are issues that you feel you have left out, please be free to write to us, and we shall follow on anything that new or we need information from your office. Otherwise, we are very grateful and thank you for your cooperation, and God bless you. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.